Showtime! The Capital G Show starts right now.
What's up YouTube, Capital G here. So guys, today I want to talk to you guys about some scans that came out of the most recent Japanese VJump. And these scans are basically an illustration of the Japanese competitive Yu-Gi-Oh meta. Like what's going on over there, what are the top decks, what's topping the, big tournaments and stuff like that. And the thing is, we can actually make some educated guesses as to what the makeup of the ban list might actually be. If you guys remember, I posted a video just like this, nearly identical 1 year ago. It was actually, I looked it up, it was June 20th, 2012. So just around the same exact time last year with pretty much the same exact scans. And it turns out that a lot of the things that I talked about in that video, some of them at least came to fruition. So we might actually be able to duplicate that, you know what I mean? Just based off the pictures that we're seeing in this magazine. So it shows, first off, a complete breakdown of the meta. It breaks it down into percentages, and some of these numbers are a little alarming. The top three decks obviously are Dragon Ruler's Prophecy and Evil Swarm. I mean, that's no different than the TCG, but the numbers to which, each deck holds is like alarming. First off, Dragon Rulers is 44% of the Japanese meta. Like, people talk about how this isn't one of the worst formats ever. Bullshit. Whenever a deck takes up almost 50% of your meta, you probably have a problem. Prophecy coming in at second place with 33% of the meta, and just right there we could stop and just say, wow, if you're not playing one of these two decks, you're probably losing a lot. I mean, between Dragon Rulers and Prophecy, that's nearly 80% of the meta. Like, that's just ridiculous. If you're not playing Dragons or Prophecy, like, what are you doing? And then a lot of people consider, Evil Swarm just a hair below those two decks. Not really. In Japan, Evil Swarm's only taking up 12% of their competitive meta. And then it also goes into each deck and it talks about, what are some of the things that the deck does well, how some of the matchups are. And there are really two decks that I want to talk about in this video, being Prophecy and Dragon Rulers. Now, it gives us some notes on Dragon Rulers. It says that, Dragon Rulers, by making use of their effects, Dragon Rulers spread across 4 attributes. They expand their plays, ultimately cornering their opponent with Dracosac and Light and Darkness Dragon. And then it kind of has a card of note, and it's Super Rejuvenation. And it says, by using the effects of various Dragon Rulers, you can greatly replenish your hand during the end phase. Now, here's the thing. Dragon Rulers is actually a very difficult deck as to say what's going to get hit. I think that Dragon Rulers will get hit, but for everybody out there who's just screaming at their computer screen, Capital G, just limit all the baby, I don't think that's going to happen. Like, when has Konami ever came out and in one format hit 4 cards in one deck? Like, that's not going to happen, and I don't think they're going to hit any of the big dragons, but I think that Super Rejuvenation is like, it's the perfect scapegoat. When I look at Super Rejuve, it's one of those cards where it's kind of hard to tell if it's broken or not, because on one hand, you pretty much have the fact that no decks have really used this card in the game's history, but on the other hand, it does allow you to draw an unlimited amount of cards, and anytime something is an unlimited amount, I'm like, oh man, I think that might be broken. And then the only 2 decks that have ever used this card are pretty degenerative, Dragon Rulers, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Exodia, Dragon FTK, where you're playing a bunch of white stones and blue eyes and trade-ins and stuff like that, and you activate Super Rejuve and draw like 12 cards and hope you draw Exodia. So they're 2 pretty degenerative decks, but I think that Super Rejuve might end up getting hit, and I say that because it kills the instant recovery factor of the Dragon Ruler deck. Like, that's one of the most frustrating things, is when your opponent dumps all their hand into summoning these Dragon Rulers, and by some way you actually find a way to deal with the Dracosacs or to deal with their plays, and then at the end phase they're just like, oh, okay, activate Super Rejuve, and they draw like 5 cards, and it's like, well, what the fuck? You know what I mean? And also, I think that if they hit Super Rejuvenation, people would probably not deter from the deck. Like, they would just add in copies of the 7 sword draw card, and they would keep it rolling, and this way Konami gets basically the best of both worlds. Like, people won't stop playing Dragon Rulers, but then Konami can sit back and say, hey, don't blame us. Like, we tried. See, we limited Super Rejuvenation. We tried. You guys want to keep using the deck, even though they really didn't try. So now when it comes to Prophecy, the notes that they have for this deck are, they dominate the field with various spellbooks. By using various spellbooks, including Spellbook of Judgment, this deck overwhelms the opponent by deploying and building up powerful spellbook monsters. They have the card of note as Spellbook Star Hall. I will not read into that a single bit because I don't think that that card has any chance of being hit. And it says, is used to strengthen spellcaster monsters such as Jogan the Spiritualist and Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. Okay, so the thing about Prophecy is it's a lot more straightforward than Dragon Rulers, where some people are like, well, hit the babies, and other people are like, well, hit this card and this card. Like, the elephant in the room with Prophecy is simple, and they just said it. Spellbook of Judgment. This is one of those cards where it just shouldn't have been created. I can't even look around the format and see any other cards similar to that. Like, Spellbook of Judgment was one of those cards where you looked at it and you were like, holy shit, what were they thinking? You know, I honestly don't see any way that Spellbook of Judgment doesn't at least get limited. Now, personally, I don't think anything else in the Prophecy archetype is going to get a hit on the ban list. I mainly say that because, well, if you look at tournament results anyway, I mean, Prophecy had a pretty subpar track record before Spellbook of Judgment was released, and I think Konami acknowledges that, and they, you know, realize that, you know, hey, we released that one card, and we thought that, you know, it was going to propel our deck to competitive status, but it actually took them, like, way over the top. Now, I won't spend too much time on Evil Swarm because they are only 12% of the Japanese meta, and quite frankly, I think that Evil Swarm are in the best position ever, and I say that because I think that they're going to get off scot-free. You know, Ophion's one of those cards where it makes half a dozen decks, like, literally unplayable, and I don't even think it's on Konami's radar. You know, in the article, they talk about how Dragon Rulers have so many outs to Ophion, and how Evil Swarm's key card is Master Key Beetle, and I'm like, shit, I'm pretty sure Konami has forgotten that Ophion even exists, so I mean, I don't think that there's anything in this deck that's going to get hit. Now, personally, I believe that Ophion needs to go to 1 simply because, I just said it. It kills too many decks. I mean, Herald of Perfection, Karakuri, Chaos Dragon, Agents. Like, there are so many decks right now where if your opponent puts Ophion on board, I mean, it's just like, well, shit, I lose. Lastly, I will say I found it very intriguing that Konami did not mention any decks outside of the big 3. And personally, you know, you guys know that I had recently gotten very interested in picking up Mermill, and man, I am loving the deck's position right now. Not only does it not seem to be on Konami's radar at all, but Megalo just got reprinted. The deck's going to be cheap. Like, okay, going into next format, I'm loving Mermill's position right now. Probably not going to get anything hit in the deck, and the deck is going to be very, very cheap. So, you know, if I'm a Mermill duelist right now, I mean, I just got to have a smile like ear to ear. You know, so let me know what you guys think. I think that we're probably going to see one of these smaller ban lists, you know, maybe one card off, one card going to the ban list, you know, 4 or 5 limits, maybe 1 semi-limit, and that's probably it. Thank you guys for watching as always, and talk to you later. Subscribing makes life happy.